Welcome to Baby Names again. We haven't done this for a while. I'm Jennifer Moss.
And I'm Mallory Moss.
We're the founders of BabyNames.com.
And we're sisters too.
We are. And we're also the co-hosts of the Baby Names podcast, which is in its 4th season. I can't believe it.
I know.
I keep saying that. I said that in our 3rd season. I think it's because when we started it, it was just kind of, let's do a podcast. And I didn't realize that we would have so much content to fill 4 seasons and more. I just keep getting cool ideas.
That's wonderful. That's what keeps us going.
I know. So the big news this week is that on June 4th, I was going to say Harry and Meghan had their 2nd baby. It was a girl, as they had predicted or told us it was going to be. And her name was Mel?
Lilibet Diana.
Lilibet Diana. One of our sisters asked us, why didn't she just name her Diana? And I think it's because that name is just so loaded. Diana was so iconic and so beloved that it would be hard to live up to the name. So I am glad that they put Diana in the middle name, even though Charlotte also has Diana as her middle name. I think it was a way to honor Harry's mother, but not put all these expectations on the child, don't you think?
Yeah, completely agree. I think Diana as a middle name is perfect. Yeah. And I think they could even do it for the next girl. Yeah. I think all the girls can be named Diana in the royal family as far as a middle name.
Right. I wonder though if William and Kate are going to have any more children.
They have 3 now. And what are their names?
It's
Charlotte, George, or Louis,
George,
and George. Yeah. Okay.
So, and they've used a lot of the royal names. I like Charlotte too. I think that was a really good choice. Now, as for Lilibet, that was a direct homage to the Queen. Lilibet was her pet name, her family name, kind of like I call Miranda Mimi or Meme, like nobody else calls her that out in the world, but family does. And so that would be Queen Elizabeth's pet name. And so that was definitely giving everyone a message that they are still honoring her. They still have a close relationship with her, enough to name their child after her. And I think that was a good way of doing that, not using Elizabeth Diana, because again, Charlotte is Charlotte Elizabeth Diana. So it wouldn't be directly competing with her cousin, but using even just a pet name also kind of goes into their whole philosophy of being of the people and being more commoner than royal. So I just think it's a perfect choice. I love it.
I also love it. I think it's great. I think the nickname of Lily is wonderful. Or is it Lily?
I think it's Lily.
Okay, I do too.
Lil. Or maybe Bet. That would be a cute nickname too. What do you guys think? We can see you if you comment. So I see there are some people watching. Welcome. Let us know who you are and where you're from so we can acknowledge you. And if you have any questions during the show, don't hesitate to post a comment and we'll try to answer them. Right?
Absolutely.
Well, one exciting thing happened. I belong to so many name groups on Facebook, the most important being the Baby Names podcast group. So if you haven't joined that yet, please look that up and join us because we talk about names all the time. And Mallory and I are always there gabbing with our listeners and everybody who wants to join. You don't have to be a listener of the podcast to just come in and talk about names. So join that Facebook group. And there's Toshka from Oregon. Thank
Pretty
you.
name. Pretty name, Toshka.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
Is that your given name or is that a nickname? That's what I want to know. And I'm going to write it down so I add it to the database too.
Great. Toshka.
Okay. So back to finding these names. Somebody posted a meme about names from Alberta, Canada, and how crazy they are, because one thing Alberta does is they publish every baby name given to a baby, even if only one baby was named this name. So what that does is it gives you like an insight into all these cool and creative names, whereas the US Social Security Office only does the top 1,000. So it doesn't get that granular. I wish the US would do this and publish every single baby name that was registered for a Social Security card, but I'm sure that list would go on and on and on and be very extensive. But
absolutely.
for Alberta, okay, so this is like, I'm obsessed already. Such cool names. And I wanted to go over some of these. And Mal, you had mentioned that you saw some names that you wanted to talk about too. But I just want to point out some cool names that I spotted on the list.
Okay.
Oh, it's Toshka says that's her given name. And hi, Candy from Florida. And she says she likes Lilibet Diana, but it only works for Harry and Meghan. Interesting. Well, we'll see if there's a bunch of Lilibets that are named in 2021 when the next year's list comes out. Okay.
I absolutely think there will be.
I think so too. I think they'll be copied. All right, back to Alberta, Canada. Now we have to understand that this list also includes a lot of Indigenous names, so I'm not going to really go into those. A lot of them I really can't pronounce and I don't want to butcher them. And I see a lot of East Indian Sanskrit names as well, and Arabic. So it's kind of a melting pot. Now, Alberta, if you don't know geography, because I had to look this up, we weren't taught geography, is kind of right next to BC. So British Columbia is on the west side, and then there's Alberta. All right, so there are some French, even though most of the French are concentrated on the other side. So for boys, I saw the name Altar, Altar. Obviously, religious connotations. I thought that was interesting. There was Blue Jay, which is not really that bad. I like blue and I like Jay. So Blue Jay. Interesting name. There's Golden with a Y.
Now, is this a boy's name or a girl's name?
Yeah, these are all boys right now.
Okay.
Golden with a Y. Grix, Grix. I have no idea. There's Guyver, as in MacGyver, only just Guyver, which I think is interesting. Somebody might have just, threw away the Mac. There's a boy named Handsome Jack. Handsome Jack. I'm not sure I agree with that one. Because, what if he's self-conscious about his looks or something? Again, that's an expectation name. We just did an episode about that. What do you think about Handsome Jack?
I think it's awful. And I think that no one should be named Handsome Jack. So Or handsome.
It's
right.
like naming somebody beautiful.
Right.
They have to live up to that expectation. And
it's okay.
It sets you up for ridicule, I think.
It's okay to name a girl Belle or Bella, which is also beautiful. In another language.
Yeah. Here's one of my favorite, Gen Z Land. Sounds like I created an amusement park or something. Genziland, Gen Z Land. There's Kixley, Kixley. Don't know, that could be just created. Interesting.
That's kind of cute.
Yeah. There were 2 Indianas, which I thought was interesting because, it's Canada. There's Javerson, Javerson.
I can see that being in the US.
Javerson. Jedrick, like Cedric with a J.
Jedrick. Okay, I like that too.
Bad. Jetson, but Jetson. S-Y-N, because they're being different.
Oh, I do not like that.
Jetson. There's Joffrey Clay, like King Joffrey dash Klay. Joffrey Clay.
What are all these dash names? Is that, I wonder,
that seems
more
to be a thing too. Like a lot of hyphenated names for first names.
Yes.
There's Keon, Keion, which I think is really pretty. Or handsome, we should say. Kadryx, Kadryx. And then this one I couldn't figure out at first. Khryz. How would you pronounce that?
Kariz?
I think it's Chris.
Oh.
Khryz. Could be Cries.
Or Chris.
Or Chris.
I don't like Chris.
Then there's Lackethan, all one word. Lord John, all one word. Louis Gabriel. I wanted to say Louis Gabriel, but I think
is that another dash?
No, that's all one word. Louis Gabriel, Luigabriel, and Zayden with two Z's.
Two Z's?
Two Z's.
Oh.
Yeah, everything else has been taken in the Aiden world. So
right.
Zayden, which I think is kind of funny.
Okay.
Now, the girls, we start with Addison with two A's. So maybe she's into Zayden and Addison. I don't like that. And Aurora with two A's. Maybe there to be like first in school or first in alphabetical order or something. But the only name that I know of that does that is Aaron. There's Alaria, which is pretty until you realize it kind of rhymes with malaria.
Yeah, good point.
Now, I don't know how to pronounce this. Aniefon. Aniaphone or Aniphone?
Oh, I don't know.
Interesting. Arzoe, like Arzoey. Now there's Bellatrix. Didn't you say that was a Harry Potter name?
Yes.
It's with a Y.
Bellatrix.
Okay. One that I think is really funny. It's a dash name, Cooper Lolly.
Cooper Lolly.
Yeah. Cooper Lolly.
Cooper Lolly.
Seems like it must be family names. Cooper Lolly. There were 3 Echoes, which I love. Eddie Lou, dash. Edelweiss. What do you think of Edelweiss?
What do I think of Edelweiss?
Oh, here she
goes. Edelweiss.
I mean, at least she gets a song named after her. That's nice.
That's true.
3 girls named Empress, one of those exalted names we talked about. Now, this I love, Everest or Everett for a girl. I really like that as a crossover name. I think it's beautiful. And you can call her Evie or Ev.
That's true. I mean, I like Evie. I like Ev. I would put an E at the end. Everett. Mm-hmm.
But I like Everest for the mountain. It's a very strong name, especially if you give it to a female, you know. Hawksley. Not sure.
How do you spell that?
Hawk, like the bird, Sley.
Hawksley. All right. Well, shall I go?
Yeah, you go.
Because I want to talk.
I know, but there's so many cool names. I can't even. Let me just do a couple more. Mavery, like Mave with an R-Y. I think it's
Mavery.
Mary Hart, all one word, Merryheart. That could be an expectation name if you think about it, but it's kind of cute. Milo for a girl. Interesting. There's 1 October, 1 Pandora, 2 Symphonies, a Sunset, which I really like. I like Symphony and I like Sunset.
I kind of do too.
Not bad. I know. These are so cool. I'm going to have to add all of these to the database. Thazana with 2 Z's, Thazzana. Gwyneth, like Gwyneth without the G. I like that too.
Oh,
and then I don't like this. Serenity or Serenity with a Z. Okay, now I'm done. There's so many.
Okay.
But okay, so tell me what you liked about this list.
Well, I'm going to start with girls, and I want to point out that there's 2 Moxies, Moxie and Moxy. And of course, we know that there's a Moxie crime fighter. And who was that again? Pendulette. Yeah. That's right. And Moxie is kind of growing on me, but I hate the crime fighter. So if you do name a baby Moxie, please don't use a silly middle name.
Well,
I also think Mossan is cute, Mossane, and I could have been Mossan Moss. But they chose Mallory Moss. Yeah, it might be a little too much with the alliteration.
Yes.
Let's see what else. Those are the M's that I wanted to talk about. Here's an N name, Namiko, which I think is really pretty. Namiko.
That is pretty.
Here's another dash name, Nalia Victoria. And I would really like to know why there are so many dash names. So anyone from our Canada listeners, Alberta, if you want to let us know.
Or maybe it is just a Canadian thing.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. There's Naomi, Nyomi. And then I want to talk about some differences or some options for Olivia, since Olivia is so popular. There is Olympia.
I like that. Like lightning bolt.
Mm-hmm. Olivia. There's Ona, Ona. There's Una, which of course we have heard of before in the United States. Mm-hmm. Now, Olivia indeed has 229 babies named Olivia, and that's actually really high for the list we're reading.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, because a lot of them are 1, 2, 9, 5. Odette is.
I love the name Odette.
Me too, and that has
Swan Lake. I think that's one of the swans in Swan Lake.
Yes. And that is 5 people named Odette, so that's pretty rare. Octavia. 23 people were named Octavia. Ocean with an E. Oceana. Lots of ocean names. And of course, there's Kai, which is also ocean, Kai. Ozella, Ozella. Not a fan.
Interesting. I noticed there were a lot of Nevaehs, but they were not heaven spelled backwards. Nevaeh.
Okay. All right.
So they switched the name because they probably just liked what they sounded like instead of having that heaven backwards meaning. So
right. Interesting. Okay, for the boys' names, I wanted to focus on Z names.
Oh, okay.
And we will let you know why in a little bit.
Okay.
So there is, of course, Zayn, but Zayn, Zain, had 13. And let's see, Zayn, the more traditional names, had 28. Oh. So, and there's also Zayn with an E on the end. There's Zaire, Zaron, Zairon. And then I like this one, Zakai. And again, that has ocean in the name if it's Hawaiian. And that's Zakai. And then there's also a Za apostrophe Kai that one person named their baby.
Yeah, look that one up.
And there's Xander, which had 19 people. Mm-hmm. And I am interested in the Z names. There are a lot. Zizu, Zizu, which I think is really cute. Zizu.
Yeah, I like that.
And then I wanted to go to H names. So that's going to take me a minute. Jennifer, do you want to do a few more?
Sure. I noticed there was Lumen I love the name Lumen. That was a
Ooh.
name from Dexter that I had heard. And there were 2 babies named Lumen, 2 girls named Lumen in Alberta.
Oh.
And there was, did I say Neptune already? I'm not sure I like
No,
Neptune.
you did not
Names
say
from space.
Neptune.
We have an episode about that. Never thought that somebody would name their child Neptune, but that's interesting. I have heard of a Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time I've heard of a Neptune. And then there was, this will be interesting to you. You named your daughter Veronica, but I saw a
Yes.
Ronica.
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 Oh, okay, that's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Veronica, I was staying with a friend for the last week, and she's like, I hate that name with your last name, which I think was really funny, actually.
Oh.
It's like, you're going to school me on baby names?
Yeah, really?
But she did school me, and she said that it should have been Anna. Anyway.
Like, to say that to your face.
No, I'm okay with it.
Even if you weren't a baby names person, that would be rude. When people ask me my opinion and the baby's already born, I'm like, it's beautiful. I'm not going to go there. That's just rude, you know?
No, I didn't take it as rude. I took it as kind of funny.
Okay.
Now, this is going to be a little interesting, and let's keep it in mind. Hayze, Hayze.
Easy or Hayze?
Hayze, and I'm assuming it's Hayes because it's a boy, but there's Hazen, Hayzen. That was one baby. And then there was Hayes, Haze. That was one baby. And we'll talk more about that later.
I think to me, that has the connotation of being hazed, like in the fraternities.
And for me, it has to do with, smoking pot.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that later.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a colloquial term for being high, right?
Right. So do you really want to name your baby that? What if they don't smoke pot? I like Howie.
I have a friend named Howie, but he's really Howard.
Well, there's 2 Howards. Wouldn't you think there'd be more?
Yeah.
So, and there's a Huckleberry.
I like Huckleberry.
What about
Cadence? Like Cadence with a T. It seems like there's a lot of names where people are just replacing the first letter just to be a little more unique. But I like it if it's still easy to pronounce and spell. Now, when you say that to the barista at Starbucks, they're going to write Cadence, I'm sure. Because a lot of people will say, what was that? Cadence? No, Cadence with a T. You're always going to have to say that. But
Ricky Joe says, I think double-barreled names are more common outside of the U.S., which is what we were thinking.
Yeah. Now, one thing I want to talk about, and this has to do with Diana, that on the girls list, there are 8 Spencers, which are really interesting.
I've
never seen that on the girls' side before, but that might be an homage to Diana without using the name Diana. You might not like Diana. There might be somebody named Diana that you don't like, so you could use Spencer instead. And I really like that name.
And that's a girl's name? I'm going to look it up on boys.
There's 8 on the girls' lists. Yeah.
Okay.
For Alberta.
Looking it up.
So that's really interesting. And then, now, mind you, this is the 2019 list because they haven't published 2020 yet, but there's 1 Kobe on the girls' side. So
Kobe, like Bryant?
So that'll be interesting to see what happens on their 2020 list if that goes up like it did here in the US, where it just, jumped so many positions in honor.
Right. Kobe Bryant, most likely. Spencer, 19 boys. Name Spencer.
Interesting. In Alberta or US?
Alberta.
Interesting. I really like that name. I'd like that to come back into style. So anyway, if you guys want to go look at this list, the full list, go to alberta.ca And you can download the entire list as a PDF, which is what I did. Now I'm going to be obsessed with it until I can get all these names into our database because they're so cool.
They are.
I want to talk about the podcast because we did drop an episode this week. And it's really one of my favorites. It's not one of our lighthearted episodes. It's a pretty deep subject. It's about Jewish names, identity, and the Holocaust. Yeah. And you might think, oh, this is going to sound so dreary, but it's not. It's fascinating. We interviewed Dr. I am Nick, her real name, her name is Iman. And she became fascinated with studying the Holocaust, actually moved to Germany. She's an onomast, which is a person who studies names. And like formally in the university system. And she's also a professor. And she just started finding out all these really interesting facts about how names affected Jews during the Holocaust. So I encourage everyone, if you listen to just one episode this year, but you're going to listen to more, but if you listen to one, go and listen to this episode. It's going to be part 1 of 2 that we have on Jewish names. But there were so many things that surprised me. And without spoiling, I'm just going to bring up a couple. One is that the whole gravestone thing, Mal, right? So do you want to talk about that Jews were made to change the names on gravestones?
Right, exactly. And, that's just another element of the way that they were made to completely change their names as well.
Yeah. And not only so, even people who were dead had to legally change their names to have Israel or Sarah in them. And so all the gravestones had to be changed to identify that. And one thing I asked is, why did you have to do that? If these people were dead already, did it make any difference? But one, it cost money to do that. So it put a hardship on the Jewish people. Plus, they could also track who was doing this. So it was a way to identify Jewish families in the areas. So, and then also they went and destroyed these headstones. They destroyed these headstones to bring further strife onto the Jews and paved streets with them, which was just horrific. So that was just one of the stories that Dr. Nick told about names and the Holocaust. And it's just so fascinating.
Absolutely. And she had a very interesting point because we talk about name appropriation, right, Jennifer?
Right.
And, let's talk about the name Cohen because Cohen has been a little controversial. And Dr. Nick actually didn't really think that name appropriation was an issue. Jennifer, would you like to talk more about that?
Well, she said that you'd have to watch out for that because if you divide the names again and only let Jews use traditionally Hebrew or Yiddish names, then you get into that problem where then you're easily identified. And she said by letting the other cultures use your names is safer, basically, what she said. So it's not that it doesn't exist. We understand that there are factions of people who are offended by non-Jews using traditionally Hebrew or Yiddish names. But she said there's a danger to the segregation of naming like that.
Yeah, I agree.
It really hurt the Jews during the Holocaust. And because Jews were forced to use certain names during the Holocaust, that she herself just had an aversion to that philosophy.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Listen to the episode. She has a lot of great things to say. And then our next episode, part 2, is going to be about post-World War II and how Jewish families in the U.S. changed their names and why. And that's a discussion with another name expert, Kirsten Vermaglich, I said her name right.
Nice.
Who wrote this book, which has a great title called A Rosenberg by Any Other Name, Jewish Changing America, which is really fascinating. And then we will reveal what our family name used to be, because our family name was changed as well.
Well, we think it's our family name.
We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about that in the episode too. There's some family secrets that came out after our DNA tests. So stay tuned for that one. That's the cliffhanger.
I like the, speaking of DNA, I like the Lizzo song, I'm 100% that. Do you know that song? No. She's like, I took a DNA test. I'm 100% that.
Oh,
it's a great song.
The other thing about Dr. Nick is her day job is forensic onomastics, we found out. And what that means is solving crimes with names. Oh my God. I didn't even realize that was a thing. But I said, we're going to have you back and do a true crime episode on names and crime.
Good idea.
So cool.
Absolutely. And if you have any ideas, maybe a ethnicity or culture, and you want to learn about the names that are typical for that or popular for that origination, I guess you could call it, then please, let us know.
Definitely.
We would be happy to hear about it.
And before we sign off, I wanted to tell you that we're running a survey for all our podcast listeners. We want to know about you and what you like so we can tailor the content to you again. So just go to babynames.com/surveys and it will be in the list of surveys. And for everyone who completes the survey, you'll be entered into a drawing to win a $50 Amazon gift certificate. And the odds are good. We're going to give away more than one. I promise you.
That's wonderful. So I want to. How do I win, Jennifer?
You are disqualified. Any moss is disqualified. That belongs to our family.
Oh, okay. I was going to say any moss.
Any moss within our family group.
All right.
So take the survey, listen to the podcast, and if you haven't already, join the Baby Names Podcast Facebook group and chat with us about names or any of the episodes. We're happy to talk with you about them. Thanks for tuning in.
I was just going to say, hold on. I was just going to say that we are active on the Facebook page.
For sure.
And so if you want to run a name by us, and there's a lot of people involved, I mean, that belong to our group. And a lot of people will just say a name and get that feedback.
Right. And we have an interesting letter from a listener that we'll read on the next one about should they name their son Hazel. So think about that and let us know. They're in Australia and they said nobody's named Hazel in Australia. So there's no connotation for gender either way. Think about that and let us know. Go to the Facebook group and let's discuss that. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye.